Oh, so you're brave enough to come back and check out my channel. Well, this week we're going to talk about how to make these cool swamp lights, and then also how I use puck lights, and I make my own unique original stands for my puck lights. Check it out. Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make this cool little swamp light. It's super easy, it's relatively inexpensive, and then all you do when you're ready to make it flicker is you take one of these little flickering lights, drop it inside, turn on the lid, and you're ready to go. These little tea lights you can get for like $8 or $9. You can get 24 of them, I think, off Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for this video so that you can find these. I use a little bit of twine. I use my glue gun. I use just some gray creepy cloth. It doesn't have to be gray. You could use any color you wanted to. You can get this stuff for a couple of bucks off of Amazon. And then I bought 12 of the 16-ounce mason jars. I think I got them from Walmart, but I'll link to them in Amazon. Same type of thing. I got them for about 15 bucks. And so for 15 bucks, a couple more bucks, you can have 12 of these that you can use throughout your haunt. They have this nice little twine strap, and you can hang them around, and it gives a nice ambiance. So follow me along and I'll show you how it works. Okay, so what I'm doing here is mixing a little bit of white paint, a little bit of brown paint. This is just acrylic paint. Some people like to paint the outside of the jar. I like to paint the inside because then it doesn't rub off. You don't have to get it perfectly smooth, but just get it kind of splotchy and nice in there, and the effect will be cool. Now what I'm doing is taking some of the creepy cloth, kind of sizing up, figuring out how much I need to go around the jar. Just a little bit of glue around that top edge, and then push the creepy cloth into the glue. Then I go back and tag up a couple of areas with glue just to make sure it holds. You won't even see that glue once it dries, and it works out great. So when you're watching these videos, you can't blink, because if you notice, all of a sudden I have 11 painted jars there. Anyway, what I really wanted to show you was most of the time these lids come in two pieces. And when you're trying to put the candle in, the two pieces will fall apart. It's a pain. So I put a little bead of glue in there and then glue them together. So now I'm just going to paint the lids. I'm using a brown color. The metal looks fine, but if you put a little bit of brown paint on it, especially if you make it kind of splotchy, it just kind of gives it an old look. At night, no one's ever going to notice that. But if your props are sitting out in the daytime, it just kind of gives it that visual appeal of looking like an old mason jar. So I like to be able to hang my lanterns. So what you're going to see me doing here is measuring out 2 pieces of twine. I'll tie one to one side and put a little dab of glue on it at some point. And then I tie the other one to the other side. And then I pull up the 4 ends and, leaving a little bit of slack, tie them together. And now I have an easy way to hang these lanterns. And I can hang them, or I can set them on a shelf, and it looks great. Okay, I know it's a little bit dark, but that's on purpose because I want to talk to you just a little bit about lighting. I am kind of a cheapskate, so I've tried all kinds of different methods of lighting my haunt. I've used bulbs, which I still use. I use strip lighting. I use all kinds of different things. But one of the things that I love, and this is really what I use the most, is just these little puck lights. You can get a 12-pack of these for less than $30. The beauty of it is they do, the one I'll link to this in the description, this does 16 different colors, and it comes with multiple of these little remotes. So the cool thing about this is you can turn on the puck light from the remote. So this is blue, and then you can cycle through and find whatever color that you want to use. So let's just say that we go with this blue. Then on the remote, you have the opportunity to dim it or make it brighter. So the cool thing about this is you get it all set, you put it where you want to light your prop or whatever, and when you're done, you just turn it off. Now what's cool is, as soon as you turn it back on, it remembers all the settings you did. So whatever color you picked, how bright it is, and so when it's time to do your haunt, all you have to do is walk around through your haunt with your remote, turning on all of your puck lights, and you're ready to go for that night. Okay, so one of the problems I had with the puck light is that if you just lay it flat like this, when the card's coming, like you see it, it's very bright. What I really want is I want it angled up in some way where I'm pointing at the prop and I'm highlighting the prop or highlighting whatever I want. So last year what I did is I really engineered, just monkey engineered this, is I took some wire like this, I cut it, I taped the back of the puck light to the wire and then stuck the wire in the ground and then just bent it in whatever direction I want. Sounds good, worked okay, fairly inexpensive solution, but the problem with that is that when you tape the back, to get the batteries into this, you have to unscrew the back, and so taping to the back is problematic. So I decided to come up with something to hold these in a way where I could direct them where they want, something that was a little stronger, more permanent, would hold up. All of my haunt, for the most part, is on grass, and so sticking that little wire down in the grass worked. So I wanted to beef that up a little bit. So what I came up with is this. And this is something I built, and I'll show you how I build it later on in this video. And you know there's some Velcro on the back of this, there's Velcro on this. So the way this works is it sticks to the little gizmo. It's a little stake that can be pounded into the ground, and then this piece can be angled in whatever way I need to point at the prop. And I painted it all black so that in the dark you couldn't see the light, this is just shining on the prop. So let me show you how to build this little gizmo. Okay, to build the little puck lamp holder thing, you're going to need a couple of different things. One thing is you're going to need, and I'll link to this in the description, you need these stakes that have a little hole in them. Let me pop this through. That have this little hole in them. Because that's what you're ultimately going to stick a bolt through, and then your piece pivots on that. So you'll need this stake. You'll need a little piece of wood. My puck lights, because of the size they are, I wanted to be able to fill up most of the wood with just a little room on this end. So this is 3.5 by 2.25 piece of wood. So cut into this shape. It's just a thin piece of like plywood or something. You're going to need about 2.5 inches of PVC. I use Schedule 40 3/4 inch PVC. I use 3/4 inch number 10 bolts. And then they come with the nuts, and then I also got locking washers to go on. And then finally, of course, you can just get this. This is just little squares of Velcro that are going to stick to hold the thing together. So let me show you how I engineer basically this little PVC piece to make all this work. Okay, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take your little PVC pipe, and what I'm going to do is ultimately I'm going to end up heating this up. I'm going to cut a little notch in it and then heat it up and smash it against a little board that's the thickness that I need to basically go on this little stake. And then I'm going to cut it. Now there's lots of ways you can do this little notch. I have a bandsaw, so I'm going to use that. You could use one of these. You could file it out. You could use a Dremel tool to cut this. You could hacksaw it. There's all kinds of different ways you can do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my bandsaw. I'll notch it out and then I'll show you what that looks like. I've notched out my little piece of PVC about that wide. Basically the little board, I want it about that thick. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be close. Now this isn't the piece of board, this isn't the end that's going to hold a piece of wood. This is the stake end, but this is about the thickness that I wanted to work. So now I'm going to heat this up and then clamp it against the board to flatten all this out, and then I want to cut it round. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a second.
So when you heat this up, you want the PVC to become just soft enough that it's flexible. You'll see me pushing it down on the table. I'm just testing the flexibility. I tried to board the first time. It wasn't quite warm enough, so I heated it up a little bit more. And then you'll see me put the clamp on it.
So this is what I have right now. It's clamped in there. It'll cool in just a second. And then I can show you how I get it ready for the stake. Okay, so now it's cooled, so I can pop the clamp off, take this piece of wood out, and you can see what I've created here. Now, here's the stake. The problem is that if you put this on the stake, these corners are going to want to hit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to round this so that it will work on the stake a little bit. So to round this off, I'm going to do something about like this. Kind of basically that shape. So I'm going to cut all this extra off, and then it'll fit into the stake a little better. Okay, so I've rounded this off. Again, I use my bandsaw. You could use any kind of cutting. You could sand it. You could use a Dremel, whatever, to get this shape. I still need to drill a hole through this so that it'll work with this stake. And then the idea is this can then pivot any direction on the stake. So I'm going to drill this hole next, and then we'll go on to what I do with the other side. I've drilled my hole, and I just temporarily just pushed a bolt through there, but now you can see this can now just rocker on that bolt. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to notch this so that my little piece of board will slide in there, and then I'll glue that in, and then it's just a matter of putting on the Velcro and painting it, and we're good to go. So let me show you that piece real quick. I'm going to notch this out on the bandsaw again. I have my hole drilled. I've notched this out ready for the board. Here's the board. It's going to sit in there just like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue gun around the bottom and top of this to hold this piece together. And then we'll be ready to put on the Velcro, and then it's ready to paint, and we're good to go. Okay, we have it all glued up. I've put on the bolt, locking nut, and the nut, or locking washer and the nut. So now it's stiff enough, you can still move it, but you can pose it wherever you need to. So I'm going to put the puck light, I'm going to basically Velcro it just like that. So then I can point it wherever I need to. So that's next. Okay, Velcroed on, everything's working. I can pose it wherever I need to. If I need to change the batteries in this, I just pull it off, twist this off, put in new batteries, stick it back on, and I'm ready to go. So the only thing left to do, just so that it's not so obvious that this is a light in the dark, is to paint it. And so when you paint it, then you end up ultimately like this. And I'm not going to show you how to paint it because I think you can probably figure that out. When I paint it, I do take the puck light off, and then I just paint around the piece of Velcro because I don't want to get paint in this. Paint the whole thing. This is going to be covering that spot anyway, so it doesn't have to be perfect. And there you go. That's how I do my puck lights. Okay, this isn't part of today's video, but just wanted to give you a quick update. This is my latest friend, the latest alligator I made. I think he came out pretty good. This time I did not wrap the alligator in plastic. I just shot the spray foam straight onto the mold. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out my previous video where I showed you how I made the spray foam alligator. So this is version number 2, and I think he came out great. So for me and my reptilian friends, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.